Hi, I'm Bob Vincent, pastor of Grace Presbyterian Church in Alexandria, Louisiana. Since January 2008, our church has been benefiting from what we learned at the Embers to a Flame conference. And as you prepare for this conference and go through it, I'd like to share some thoughts with you of how we benefited and answer some questions. My prayer is that God will bless you as He has blessed me and as He has blessed my congregation. It was in the course of pursuing a Doctor of Ministry at Reformed Theological Seminary that I began a process of self-evaluation, which I think is a huge value of the D-Min program. And I evaluated my ministry and finally came to grips with a comment of a new assistant pastor who is now an associate pastor, who said to me, "This is the Church of Bob." And I was baffled by his comment at first, but in the course of pursuing a Doctor of Ministry and doing the reading that I needed to do for that regimen of study, I began to come to grips with what he meant. I had been here long enough to inherit not only the good things, but the bad things as well. And I had created a church that needed me, and a church that was, in a sense, not going to function without me. And so God used that statement of my now associate pastor, along with the readings that were prescribed, to prepare me to consider going to the Embers Conference and then to go with an open heart and an open mind. And wow, did we receive at Embers excellent guidance. The thing that stands out in my mind most that I got out of the Embers Conference is that I needed outside help. I came to grips before I left Birmingham that unless I had someone to help me, hold me accountable, and coach me through this process, my leadership style was such I would probably drift back into the old way of doing things, which was always let people off the hook and do as much as I possibly could myself without sharing the responsibility and without bringing other people into leadership to help do the work with me. The month-to-month process with fanning the flame was an incredibly productive thing. We had formed a team who met and evaluated where our church was in terms of congregational feedback and how we would address those things. And so, month by month, we began to bite off small chunks, and the committee began to address those things through study, through book reports, through evaluation, through committees being formed, and then those committees reporting to the elders of the church when they had findings for the elders to evaluate and the elders to sign off on. But it was an incredibly productive time, and we were able to chart our course. I have to assess Grace Presbyterian Church in light of where we were and in terms of how Embers has impacted us. I think that Grace was a healthy church before we began the Embers process, but it had areas of sickness in it. In my opinion, the greatest area of sickness in the church was that I worked behind the scenes with a handful of leaders, talking to them, talking things out, and decisions were made often, in effect, in a closed room with a handful of people, and the elders and the deacons functioned more like a board of directors, approving or disapproving an idea that a small group had come up with. And so the greatest single thing that Embers brought about in our church in terms of changes were in structures. We now have committees where people are able seriously to grapple with problems come up with plans and suggestions and ideas, and all of those things go to the whole body of the elders, things pertaining to the deacons, to the whole body of deacons, where once again they're discussed and refined. That has begun to change significantly, and all without in any way rupturing the peace of the church. I believe that every church would benefit from an outside, objective analysis of where they are, of their problems, and what they need to do to address those problems. I believe that it is very difficult for a pastor, and even a pastor and his elders, accurately to assess where they are, because they become blind to their spots of weakness and failure. And I believe having an outsider come and look and help you evaluate according to biblical principles, areas of strength and areas of weakness, is a wonderful, wonderful tool. Embers is the best of the tools about which I'm familiar.